A black waitress loses her job for assisting Elon Musk, but the events of the following day leave her utterly astounded. The morning sun painted the cobblestone streets in hues of gold, its rays streaming through leafy trees as a gentle breeze carried the faint scent of nearby blossoms. The city moved at a slower pace than usual, as though savoring a rare moment of calm. Amid this tranquility, Elon Musk, a name synonymous with innovation and fame, sought a brief escape. He stepped away from his world of corporate opulence and high-stakes meetings in pursuit of something he seldom experienced: anonymity. Dressed in a neatly pressed checkered shirt, perfectly fitted jeans, and a baseball cap that obscured much of his face, Elon could have been mistaken for any passerby. There was no entourage trailing him, no armored vehicles parked nearby, just him, walking alone. The simplicity of the moment was a stark contrast to the whirlwind of his usual life. As he wandered, his attention was drawn to a small cafe tucked beneath a canopy of trees. The sign above the door read "Cozy Brew," and it exuded an unpretentious charm that resonated with him. The gentle chime of a bell marked his entrance as he pushed open the wooden door. Inside, the cafe welcomed him with its polished wooden tables, warm golden lighting, and the smooth hum of jazz music. A handful of patrons glanced briefly at the stranger who had just entered, but none lingered long enough to recognize the billionaire in their midst. Elon chose a table by the window, where sunlight spilled through the curtains, creating delicate patterns on the surface. The scene outside was picturesque, a quiet street where time seemed to slow. A waitress approached, her smile genuine and welcoming. "Good morning. What can I get for you today?" she asked, her tone cheerful and inviting. "Just a black coffee and some apple pie, if you have it," Elon replied with a slight smile, his deep voice steady. "Absolutely. I'll bring that right out," she said before heading toward the counter. As he waited, Elon allowed his thoughts to drift. The peace of the moment felt almost surreal compared to the relentless pace of his everyday life. Gazing out of the window, he found himself pondering. What would life be like if I weren't Elon Musk? Could I walk down streets unnoticed, speak freely to strangers without fear of being recorded or photographed? The idea of such simplicity felt like a luxury far beyond his reach. Still, Elon bore no resentment. He had always believed in the importance of his mission to drive humanity forward, but even those with grand purposes needed time to breathe. These quiet moments, he thought, were essential for grounding oneself amidst the chaos of a demanding life. He smiled faintly, taking a bite of his pie, the buttery crust and sweet filling a reminder of life's simpler pleasures. Unbeknownst to him, the peaceful atmosphere would soon be shattered. Just as Elon lifted his cup of coffee to his lips, the distant sound of motorcycle engines broke through the serenity. The low rumble grew louder with each passing second until it seemed to echo through the very walls of the cafe. The wooden door swung open with a forceful creak, the soft jingle of the bell now resembling an ominous warning. 5 men entered, their presence commanding attention. Clad in black leather jackets and ripped jeans, their arms and necks bore bold tattoos that spoke of defiance. The sharp scent of gasoline and cigarette smoke wafted in with them, prompting a few patrons to wrinkle their noses in discomfort. The group moved with an air of dominance, their eyes scanning the room as if asserting control. The warm, inviting ambiance of Cozy Brew was suddenly replaced with a palpable tension. Despite the shift, Elon remained composed, his gaze steady as he observed the unfolding scene. His instinct told him that this ordinary morning was about to become anything but. The group's rowdy chatter and raucous laughter quickly overpowered the soft jazz playing in the background. Patrons and staff alike cast nervous, fleeting glances at the newcomers but swiftly looked away, unwilling to draw attention to themselves. Seated quietly at the far end of the cafe, Elon remained composed, seemingly unbothered by the commotion. He sipped his coffee with an air of calm, his expression steady and untroubled. After briefly glancing at the group, he returned his attention to his apple pie. Among the bikers, the leader, a tall man with a prominent skull tattoo on his forearm, scanned the room. His name was Roy. When his gaze settled on Elon, sitting quietly in the corner, a sly grin crept across his face. "Well, look at this," Roy muttered to his crew. "A lonely guy sipping coffee. Looks like you've wandered into the wrong place, pal." Receiving no response, Roy shrugged and swaggered over to Elon's table. "Hey buddy," he jeered. "Lost in thought, are we? Or maybe you're trying to pass as some deep brooding writer?" Elon raised his head, meeting Roy's gaze without flinching. His voice was calm but carried a weight of authority. "Just enjoying a quiet Sunday? Maybe you should try the same, instead of stirring up trouble." Roy hesitated, his grin faltering for a moment, but then he burst into loud laughter, prompting his crew to join in. "Enjoying yourself, huh? All right, let's help you enjoy it a little more." Roy grabbed Elon's slice of apple pie, twirling it playfully in his hand. So, this is what the rich eat? Smells pretty good, I'll give you that. Elon didn't react. Setting his coffee cup down gently, he fixed Roy with an unwavering gaze. If you've picked it up, eat it, Elon said evenly. But remember, it's not free. Roy froze briefly, as if caught off guard, before laughing again. This time, though, his laughter felt forced, betraying an undercurrent of unease. One of the other bikers, smaller but more aggressive looking, chimed in with a sharp tone. Confidence, huh? Let's see if that'll save you. The atmosphere in the cafe turned heavy. A few customers quietly slipped out, whispering to one another. We don't want to get involved, a young woman murmured as she hurriedly left with her friend. An older man at the counter sighed, shaking his head. This won't end well, he muttered. Behind the counter, Anna, the young server, stood frozen, her heart pounding as the scene unfolded. Fear coursed through her, but no one else in the cafe seemed willing to step in. Roy leaned closer to Elon, tapping his fingers on the table, his smirk widening. So, who are you really? You don't seem like you belong here. Or are you just hiding from something? Elon met Roy's stare, his piercing gaze unwavering as though he could see straight through the man. He calmly took another sip of his coffee before replying, his voice steady and authoritative. Who I am doesn't matter, he said. But if you don't know how to treat others with respect, then this isn't the place for you. The quiet confidence of Elon's words struck a nerve. Roy shot up from his seat, slamming a hand onto the table with a force that made the cafe's remaining patrons recoil. The loud thud echoed through the room, heightening the tension. Just as it seemed the situation might escalate further, a voice rang out. Stop it! All heads turned toward the counter, where Anna now stood. Her voice trembled, but her determination was unmistakable. No one harasses our customers here, she said firmly. Though her body quivered slightly, her resolve was evident. She had decided she couldn't just stand by and do nothing. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as Anna, the petite server, broke the silence. Taking a step forward, her eyes remained resolute, even though her hands trembled slightly. Her heart raced, but a deeper sense of duty pushed her onward. With a steady, firm voice, she declared, This is a cafe, not a place for disruption. If you'd like to order something, I'll be happy to serve you. But if you continue disturbing our customers, I'll have to ask you to leave. Roy, startled at first, quickly recovered, his face shifting to a mix of surprise and amusement. He tilted his head, studying Anna with mock curiosity. Well, he sneered. Looks like we've got ourselves a little sheriff here. Turning to his crew, he let out a booming laugh that reverberated through the room. Did you all hear that? She's actually asking us to leave. One of the bikers, shorter but with an air of menace, clapped his hands in slow, sarcastic applause. Brave words, he taunted, but you really don't want to stick your nose in this, little girl. Anna inhaled deeply, willing herself to stay composed. Though her voice wavered slightly, her gaze remained locked on Roy. I don't care what you think of me, she said firmly. But everyone here deserves respect. You have no right to disturb them, and you certainly have no right to harass that customer. Roy arched an eyebrow, his expression a mix of mock surprise and disdain. That customer? He asked, gesturing lazily toward Elon. You mean this guy sitting there, quiet as a mouse? And you think he needs your protection? He laughed again, as if the very idea was ludicrous. Come on, don't play the hero. It's not worth it. Anna glanced at Elon. He sat there, still calm and unshaken, but when their eyes met, there was a flicker of respect in his gaze, a silent acknowledgement that gave Anna the courage to persist. Maybe he doesn't need my protection, she said, her voice growing stronger. But no one deserves to be treated this way, no matter who they are. The cafe seemed to collectively hold its breath. A few customers nodded in quiet admiration for Anna's bravery, though not all agreed. Near the counter, an older man murmured to his companion. She's got guts, sure, but this could get ugly. Not worth it. Roy took a step closer, his sharp gaze cutting into Anna like a knife. And what if I don't leave? He asked, his voice low and threatening. What are you gonna do? Call the cops? He looked her up and down, his smirk widening mockingly. Or do you think I'll just back down because you're trying to act all tough? The quiet clink of a coffee cup meeting the table broke the tense silence. Elon had set his mug down deliberately, the sound reverberating in the charged atmosphere. He lifted his head, his voice calm but commanding. I think she's doing the right thing, he said evenly. And if you're smart, you'll listen to her. Roy spun around, his face darkening with anger. "And who the hell do you think you are to tell me what to do?" he spat. Elon stood, his movements deliberate and unhurried. Though he wasn't as physically intimidating as Roy, his presence filled the room, and the weight of his words was palpable. "I'm someone who believes that respect and kindness matter more than brute strength," he said steadily. "You might not care, but I do. She's right, and you're wrong." Roy stared at Elon, his fists clenched and trembling with barely restrained fury. He seemed on the verge of lashing out, but no retort came. Finally, one of the other bikers, clearly less patient, exploded. "Enough of this?" he growled. "I don't care who's right or wrong, but I'm sick of this self-righteous crap." He lunged forward, hand raised to shove Elon. "Stop it." Anna's voice rang out, clear and sharp, cutting through the chaos. Before anyone could react further, the distant sound of police sirens grew louder, drawing closer to the cafe. Unbeknownst to the bikers, one of the staff had discreetly called the authorities when tensions began to escalate. Moments later, 2 officers stepped inside, their eyes scanning the scene with professional precision. Their firm gestures left no room for argument as they signaled for the bikers to stand down. A collective sigh of relief swept through the cafe as the police escorted the aggressive bikers outside. Some patrons exchanged glances filled with gratitude, while others looked on with lingering apprehension, their gazes flickering between the door and Anna. One biker, more defiant than the rest, earned himself a pair of handcuffs, while the others left after receiving stern warnings, grumbling under their breath. Despite their departure, a heavy stillness lingered in the air. Anna remained rooted to the spot, her serving tray clutched tightly in trembling hands. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but from a growing sense of unease. She had done what she believed was right, yet the weight of everyone's stares bore down on her like a tangible force. Breaking the silence, Elon approached her. His expression was calm, but his voice carried warmth and sincerity. "Thank you," he said, his tone steady. "You've reminded me of something not everyone understands. Doing the right thing is rarely easy, but it's always worth it." Anna managed a faint smile. Her hands still trembled, but her eyes held steady as she replied. "I just think the world needs more people like you. And fewer people like them." As the police drove away, taking the defiant biker with them, an eerie quiet descended over the cafe. The customers who remained glanced around uneasily, their expressions a mix of discomfort and relief. The cafe, once a haven of peace and quiet, now felt marked by the confrontation that had just unfolded. Near the door, 2 women exchanged whispers, their annoyance evident. "What a hassle," one murmured. "This used to be such a peaceful spot." "Exactly," the other replied. "Nobody wants this kind of drama on a Sunday morning." At a nearby table, an elderly man's hands trembled slightly as he clutched his coffee cup. His voice, though soft, carried disapproval. "She didn't have to get involved," he muttered. "All she did was make things worse. If she'd just stayed out of it, it would have blown over by now." Each critical comment felt like a sharp blade to Anna, slicing through her composure. She kept her chin high, but her eyes betrayed the sting of their words. She hadn't expected gratitude, but she had hoped for some understanding. From behind the counter, Mr. Smith, the cafe's middle-aged owner, stepped forward. His salt and pepper hair and perpetually hurried demeanor gave him the appearance of a man constantly juggling too many responsibilities. He caught sight of the dissatisfied expressions of some customers and frowned. "Anna," he said, his voice firm. "I need to speak with you." Without waiting for a response, he turned and made his way toward the back of the cafe, gesturing for her to follow. Anna hesitated but eventually trailed after him, her heart heavy with apprehension. In the small staff area, away from the customers' prying eyes but still within earshot, Mr. Smith faced her. His tone was low but carried an edge of frustration. "What were you thinking?" he asked, exasperation clear in his voice. "This is a cafe, not a police station or a stage for heroics. Customers come here for peace, not chaos." Anna's voice was small but steady as she responded. "I just wanted to protect him. He didn't do anything wrong." Mr. Smith sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I understand that, but look around. Half the customers walked out. This is supposed to be a place for comfort, not conflict. We can't afford to lose business because of things like this." Anna bit her lip, trying to hold back the emotions threatening to spill over. His words stung, not because they were entirely wrong, but because they dismissed the principle she had stood up for. Her voice trembled as she asked, "So you're saying I should have done nothing? Just let them harass whoever they wanted?" Mr. Smith exhaled heavily, clearly torn. "I'm not saying that," he said, his tone softening slightly. "But you can't handle situations like this on your own. It's not professional, And it could end up driving away more customers. Anna didn't respond immediately. Her throat tightened as she tried to process his words, grappling with the tension between her convictions and the practicality he emphasized. Anna stood motionless, feeling the weight of an invisible divide, a chasm between the values she held dear and the pragmatic concerns her boss seemed to prioritize. Her silence spoke volumes, embodying an unspoken tension between what is right and what is convenient. Finally, Mr. Smith shook his head, his voice firm and resolute. "I can't let this happen again," he said. "If anything like this occurs in the future, I need you to focus on your job. Serving the customers. No more interference. Understood?" Anna lowered her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I understand." As Mr. Smith walked away, Anna remained rooted in place, overwhelmed by a rush of conflicting emotions. Though she didn't regret standing up for what was right, the reprimand and the judgmental glances from some customers left her feeling more isolated than ever. Returning to the counter, she resumed her tasks, keeping her head down and avoiding eye contact. Still, her gaze occasionally darted toward Elon's table. As the cafe began to calm, Elon stood and made his way toward her. His steps were deliberate, his demeanor calm yet purposeful. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice warm and steady. Startled, Anna looked up, surprised by the genuine concern in his eyes. She nodded, managing a faint smile. "I'm fine. Thank you." Elon held her gaze, his expression carrying a profound respect. "What you did today took courage. Not everyone would have done that. Thank you, not just for standing up for me, but for choosing to do the right thing, even when no one else would." Anna looked down slightly, her voice soft but resolute. "I just couldn't stay silent. Everyone deserves to be treated with kindness. You, of all people, understand that." A faint smile touched Elon's lips, though a thoughtful air lingered in his expression. "You're right," he said. "And you reminded me that in a chaotic world, one act of kindness can make all the difference." Elon returned to his table, but the tension in the cafe lingered. Some customers quietly left, their expressions ranging from annoyance to apathy. Near the door, a woman cast Anna a cold glare before walking out. Behind the counter, Mr. Smith sighed heavily, his gaze falling on the empty chairs left behind. Anna stared at her hands, her emotions swirling in a tempest of regret, pride, and a deep sadness that pressed heavily on her chest. Elon left shortly after, saying nothing more. As he reached the door, he turned back, his eyes meeting Anna's. His look was one of quiet admiration, a silent acknowledgement of her bravery in the face of adversity. The following morning, warm sunlight streamed through the cafe's windows, casting a familiar glow over the space. Customers came and went as usual, but the atmosphere felt heavier, weighted with the memory of the previous day's events. Anna arrived for her shift, her eyes shadowed from a sleepless night. She tried to focus on her work, hoping to distract herself, but the lingering sadness refused to fade. The gentle chime of the doorbell broke her thoughts. A sleek luxury car had pulled up outside, drawing the attention of everyone inside. All heads turned toward the entrance. This time, Elon Musk didn't arrive in casual clothes. Instead, he stepped into the cafe wearing a sharp, tailored suit, exuding an air of authority and confidence. Yet, despite his commanding presence, there was still a quiet approachability about him. 2 bodyguards flanked him, standing at either side of the entrance, signaling that this was no ordinary visit. The atmosphere in the cafe shifted immediately. Conversations halted, and all eyes locked on the distinguished figure who had just entered. Elon walked directly toward the counter where Anna stood behind the espresso machine. Her heart began to race as a flood of thoughts overwhelmed her mind. Why is he here? Is he upset about what happened yesterday? When Elon stopped in front of her, his expression was serious yet kind. "Anna," he began, his tone measured. "Yesterday, you did something very few people have the courage to do. You weren't just brave, you showed something the world desperately needs. Integrity." Anna froze, her words caught in her throat. She couldn't find a response, but the emotion welling in her eyes said everything. Elon's voice carried a quiet authority that commanded the attention of the entire cafe. Even those who had been trying to avoid staring leaned in now, listening intently. "I'm not here just to thank you," he continued. "I'm here to extend an invitation. Tesla is always searching for people who stand up for what's right. I'd like to invite you to join our social welfare foundation. There, you can uphold the values you believe in. Not just here in a small cafe, but on a much larger scale." The cafe fell into stunned silence. Anna stared at Elon, her thoughts racing. She had never imagined that her moment of courage could lead to something so extraordinary. She struggled to process his words. Once, she had dreamed of such an opportunity, but never in her wildest thoughts had she believed it would come to her in such an incredible way. I don't know what to say, Anna stammered, her voice trembling. But I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity. I'll do my very best. Elon smiled warmly, his gaze reassuring. Sometimes, all it takes is for someone to stand up at the right moment. Yesterday, you did just that. Behind the counter, Mr. Smith stood frozen, his face pale. He couldn't fathom that the man Anna had defended the previous day was someone as influential as Elon Musk. Around the cafe, customers began to exchange glances, their expressions shifting. Those who had doubted or criticized Anna now looked at her with admiration, and even regret. Near the door, a woman leaned toward her companion and whispered, "She's truly brave. I feel awful for judging her yesterday." "Me too," her friend replied. "I wish I had the courage to do what she did." Before leaving, Elon turned to address the room, his gaze steady and voice calm yet filled with purpose. Freedom isn't just the ability to do as you please. It's the responsibility to stand up for what's right. If we fail to act against injustice, can we truly call ourselves free? His words lingered, leaving a profound silence in their wake, as if every syllable had etched itself into the minds of those present. Elon left the cafe, but his presence remained, a lasting imprint on everyone who had witnessed the moment. Anna watched him go, her heart swelling with hope. Yesterday, she had seen herself as just a simple cafe worker. Today, she realized that even the smallest actions could ripple into profound change. Mr. Smith approached her, his voice lower, his expression softened by remorse. "Anna," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. Yesterday, I failed to see what you accomplished. I'm proud to have someone like you working here." For the first time in days, Anna smiled. A genuine heartfelt smile that lifted the weight she had been carrying. As she stepped out of the cafe, she felt ready to embark on a new chapter in her life. She left her old job behind but carried with her a powerful lesson: standing up for what's right, even once, can change everything. The world doesn't need perfect people, it needs courageous ones. And sometimes, it all begins with a single cup of coffee. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed the story, type Musk in the comments below. Remember, don't hesitate to like the video and share it with your friends too. Subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a nice day.